Hello again, I am Blunty and today I posted my 100th picture to Instagram. Now, I'm not normally the type of guy who celebrates these decimal-based milestones around random arbitrary numbers because they're a nice round number like 100 or 10 or 10,000 or whatever you're talking about. But I thought this was as good an opportunity as ever to make the video I've been planning to make since I started using Instagram, and that is looking back and seeing how it's affected my photography and my attitude to photography in general. Now, I used to make fun of Instagram users a lot because, well, frankly, they inappropriately used the filters and overcooked the images and wound up making decent photos look eye-rapingly bad. I mean, seriously awful, like ruining otherwise decent shots with just inexplicably poor choices of filter uses and things like that. And I used to mock people all the time, but I try not to mock stuff until I've actually used it. Like I never said a bad word about the Catwoman movie with Halle Berry until I watched it and then realized it's one of the worst movies ever made in the universe ever. And now I never shut up about it, how bad it is whenever it comes up in conversation or bad movies come in conversation. It's Catwoman. Well, this movie was horrible. Oh, really? Was it as horrible as Halle Berry's Catwoman? Well, no, it wasn't. Now that you mention it. Well, I'm sort of drifting off the side of the point here. So what is it about Instagram that I've been liking? Well, it's a square image aspect ratio, as you've noticed, all the pictures sort of scrolling by this side of that side or that side. I haven't decided yet, so I'll do that and point to them. The square aspect ratio is something I've not shot before. It's something I don't think about when I'm composing shots. So it was refreshing to be forced to think about that when I'm shooting images for Instagram. I think, how am I going to frame that up in a square where I would normally use, a rectangle, this way, or various aspect ratios that I usually shoot, and I've never shot in square before because it felt too restrictive. But any artist will tell you that restrictions are good because it forces you to think in new ways and it spurs creativity, and I've enjoyed that. The filters, I don't use the built-in Instagram filters a lot, maybe 50% of the time. Usually I edit them in external apps, usually like Camera Plus, sometimes even Aperture, then I export them back to the phone to get them where they're looking. I also use Instagram as an excuse to overcook my images. I put more aggressive filtering on them than I would normally do in photos I post to my galleries at Google Plus, for instance. Because that's sort of the way of things in Instagram. It's that sort of overcooked, harsh, very aggressive kind of filter use, very bright and high contrast and heavy saturation in a lot of cases and things like that. I'm enjoying sort of pushing past my normal stop limit of where I would do that. And in some cases I posted the same image, or same basic image, to Instagram and Google Plus, but with different filtering treatments and different aspect ratios even. And I've been enjoying that creative flexibility, just play a bit. Instagram kind of gives me permission to go too far, and sometimes I like the effects and sometimes I don't like the effects, but either way it's interesting to get people's reaction to them. I also don't always use the iPhone camera for Instagram, or even an Android camera if I'm testing an Android handset at the time, and I know it's supposed to be all about mobile photography because it only works on mobiles and the web interface is non-existent pretty much, and but I still take shots with other cameras like my Olympus Pen or my Pentax Q, or whatever I'm using at the time, and then sort of I'll export them to up to iCloud and then pull them back down to the phone and then post them from there. And I know that's breaking the rules of Instagram because it's not using a mobile photography thing, but who gives a shit? It's my account, my rules. I post however I want, and nobody's complained so far. In fact, I get a pretty good reaction to just about everything I shoot, which is kind of sweet. But like I've been getting at, Instagram has forced me to think about my photography in slightly different ways, and I've been enjoying that creative challenge. It also made me think about why I photograph. And there's a very famous quote from a famous photographer when someone asks him, why do you photograph? And he says, I photograph the world to see what the world looks like photographed. And I'm not going to tell you who said that because I'm going to make you Google it to find out who said that, because you might learn some more interesting stuff along the way on that journey of finding out who said that quote. Even though most of you won't, you just take it on face value. Some famous photographer said that. I won't bother checking that fact at all, because you just accept what you hear on the internet, because that's the way of things, isn't it? But it did make me think about why I do it. I mean, there's lots of stuff I like about photography and the process of photography, and just freezing a moment in time and deciding how to represent that moment, finding a composition. I like the challenge of all that. There's lots of stuff I like about the process of photography, but I've never really thought about why I photograph stuff. Why don't I sketch it? Why don't I do a lot more video? Why did I start with stills, and why have stills been a constant in my life for at least half my life now? All of my adult life, I've been photography, photography, photography. Sometimes more extreme, sometimes it falls into the background, but it's always there. I'm always thinking about the still image. I'm always looking at something. That would make an interesting photograph. I don't know why I do it, and I figured it out. I sat down and I thought about it. Why do I photograph? And it's not to see what the world looks like photographed, even though I do love that quote to bits. It's... you may have picked up if you watched enough of my videos, a bit of a grouch sometimes, a bit of a cynic, a bit of a misanthrope even. I don't like the world we're in. I don't like most people. They do crappy things to each other, and the world is difficult to live in, and it's just annoying and irritating, and every time you turn around there's a new irritation or annoyance trying to make your life just a little bit less pleasant to be in the world. So I photograph the world to try and find the pretty things, the attractive things. I photograph to try and prove to myself on a deep psychological level that there are nice things to experience in the world. There are nice vistas you can sit there and go, that's pleasant. There are little details you can look at in the world, go, that's an interesting little detail. That's wonderful. Look at that texture. Look at that little critter. Look at that flower. Look at the way the water beads off that leaf. These tiny little slices of life, these moments, these instants in time I want to capture and save and keep so I can go look at them and just live in that moment once more, even for another little moment. You look at a picture and go, ah, how lovely. And then, you know, the horrible world is still spinning around you, but that's lovely. That's lovely. That's really cool. That's dramatic and wonderful. Look at those colours and the clouds and, you know, all that kind of stuff. And that's why I do the photography thing, what I do. And it probably says more about my psyche than anything else that I've sort of self-examined upon myself. And I do a lot of that because my brain is all kinds of miswired. So why do you photograph? I don't care if you're a photography hobbyist, you know, you photograph each and every day, which I try and do with Instagram. I try and get at least one up every day, sometimes two, sometimes I'm saying who cares, but, you know, I try and every day, every single day, think about what's a neat image to think about. What can I post? What can I share with people? You know, some of you out there only whip out the cameras when you're out having fun with friends, or you're, you know, out on a boat on the lake or something, and, you know, you don't photograph often, but you photograph sometimes. Maybe you do it to save a moment so you remember that moment. Maybe you do it so you can share the moment with others. Whatever your reasons. What are your reasons for photographing? Whether you're a hobbyist or whether you're just casual, everyone takes photos. Why do you do it? Have a think about it. Why do you want to save that little slice and moment of time? And what do you do with it after you've done that? You just keep it somewhere, or do you share it with people? Do you put it online? Do you actively just push it out and go, look at this thing that happened? Or this thing that I saw? What do you do with them? Why do you photograph? What do you do with them? Tell me. I'm eager to know.